In recent months, they have greatly increased their fighting forces and their attacks and the numbers of incidents. I have asked the commanding general, General Westmoreland, what more he needs. He has told me, and we will meet his needs. I have today ordered to Vietnam the Air Mobile Division and certain other forces which will raise our fighting strength from 75,000 to 125,000 men almost immediately.
Our Delta Company had its origins when it reorganized in the summer of 1963 at Fort Benning, Georgia, some 56 years ago. We trained hard, and we were forerunners to the vertical envelopment, the air assault concept. We were alerted for deployment to Vietnam, to the beach resorts there. Little did we know the shit was about to hit the fan. The final company morning formations took place just a few days before shipping out. The first sergeant and company commander called the Delta troopers to attention, and the company commander instructed that only those troopers volunteering would be deploying to Vietnam. And he asked that all of those volunteering for Vietnam duty to step forward. All others were to stand in place. Only volunteers deployed with Delta to Vietnam. Boarding the lead bus, I asked the driver where we were going. His response, Savannah, Georgia. 6+ hours later, our transport buses pulled into the loading docks along the Savannah River. And anyhow, our 30+ days love affair with the tramp steamer USNS Geiger was about to begin. She was designed to carry less than 1,200 personnel on her runs. Here we were, 3,900 troopers crammed into the holds of the Geiger, 12 to 16 high, in hammocks. Seasickness of the worst kind quickly turned the bilges of the Geiger into awash cesspools. Not a very pleasant sight. Finally, after many of these experiences, we arrived at Pearl Harbor late one morning, and we were told that shore leave was authorized and to not permit your troopers to get into any trouble. And be sure that all of your men are back on board and accounted for by 1900 hours. Gathered all on board, the Delta troopers, and asked them to heed shore leave instructions. Ask that each act accordingly while having a good time, remembering at all times that they were in uniform and represented our country and Delta Company.
About halfway across the Pacific, the USS Geiger and all of its troops, along with the rest of the division that was en route, were notified to be prepared to fight their way ashore, although the division loaded out administratively and not for a combat assault. Immediately, the officers and enlisted and sergeants got together to figure out what to do to meet the possibility of having a combat assault once they hit the beach. On September 20th, 1965, Delta Company, along with the 1st Brigade, which was aboard the USS Geiger, dropped anchor at Quinyon and prepared to hit the beach.
After 30 days of travel in the Atlantic through the Panama Canal, onward to Pearl Harbor with a stop in Guam, we arrived in Quinyon Harbor.
We're all 17, 18, 19-year-old kids. We boarded the USS Geiger, went through the Panama Canal, stopped in Hawaii, stopped in Guam. We're on the way to Vietnam. 2 days prior to arriving in Vietnam, they took us up on top of the deck where they had 3 large maps, and they showed us where Vietnam was in the world. We had no idea, nobody ever heard about Vietnam. They briefed us on the enemy. They briefed us about the NBA and how they wore green uniforms with pet helmets, and they carried AK-47s. They briefed us about the VC, that they were wearing black pajamas and they had SKSs and all types of, you couldn't tell them. They were all civilians they called them Charlie, VC, whatever. They tell us about young kids walking up to soldiers, selling cokes to them, and then dropping grenades, running away. All this was going through our minds, and we were getting ready for an LCM insertion. We saw the longest day. We knew what happened in Normandy. We knew what happened in the South Pacific, so we were ready to make an LCM insertion into the shore at Quinyon. The day prior to the insertion, they brought us up on deck. We started loading up magazines, ammunition into magazines. In those days, we only had 2 ammo pouches. We also had a total of 5 magazines, 2 in each ammo pouch and 1 on our weapon. So we were loading our 5 magazines, and they came up and told us, hey, you're going to have to give up some of your ammunition. Why? Bravo Company brought blanks by accident. Let them go bang, bang. You're not getting my ammo. Don't worry about it. We'll get more ammunition to you once you get on shore. Yeah, I've seen that movie too. But anyway, we ended up giving our ammunition to Bravo Company.
Before I climbed down the ladder, I looked around because on my mind, I was wondering which one of us was not going to make it. Who out of the 33 people that I lived with for close to 2 years, who among us would not make it through this tour of duty? Again, this was live fire. There are no blanks. There's no end to the field problem. This was the beginning of something that had a definite exclamation point. There was danger there. There would be lives lost there. There would be maiming there. We would change there.
During the day of the insertion, we climbed down the cargo nets into the LCMs, and Delta Company was picked first for the insertion. So as we got into the LCMs, we headed for the beach. The orders were, do not lock the load, told to do so. So I had a magazine and my camo band on top of my helmet, and my weapon, of course, was empty. Moving towards the beach, weapon still not loaded. I saw the mountains at the distance. I looked over to Lieutenant West and said, hey. And he went, no. All the other guys saw me do it, and they were all going, what are we doing? Well, as we get close to the shore, I could hear music playing. Do, 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 do. I said, what are they doing? Filming a movie? But then we also heard no gunfire from battleships or anything. No naval gunfire. It was kind of strange. But as we got closer to shore, I could hear da 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 da. The band was playing a marching song. And
as the band was playing, as we were being met by these foreign people trying to sell a few items to make a few cents here and there, there was the thumps in the background. This is very surrealistic.
And there was the Deputy Commander General standing up there, welcome troopers to Vietnam. This was not the assertion we were obviously expecting. Anyway, when we got off the boat, we started moving towards the truck, and everybody was in black pajamas. Kids were trying to sell us Cokes, and our weapons were still not loaded.
I was overwhelmed by the sights on the beach. There on the beach were spectators watching us come in. You buy Coke, you buy this, you do this. There I saw for the first time a woman roll her pants leg up in public and pee, not getting a drop of water on her pants leg.
Finally, they got us on the deuce and a halfs with they were loaded with sandbags on each side. They said, load your weapons. And then we loaded our M6, loaded up our weapons, and we moved to the airfield where they flew us by Chinooks into An-Kay. We got into An-Kay base camp and set up our tents. That was our first day in Vietnam and our insertion into Vietnam. Obviously, we were never told it was going to be administration insertion. We really thought we were making an LCN assault into Vietnam.
And my mind asked a question, which I dare not ask anyone else. What's next? The fear was there. The thought was, will I be one of the casualties? Will I be one of the ones who'd be laid to rest? Here I am to tell the story of the beginning. So I did survive, changed eternally. I'm still here, not as whole as I was, not as young as I used to be, but I'm still here. Thanks be to God.